we want to calculate the price variance for the quantity purchased, and we want to calculate the quantity variance on the quantity used. Okay? So let's do the price variance first. You're going to see I'm going to have to format this problem just a little different, because do you see where I see that? Look at these, there's 3 lines of information together. 10,000 yards of material were purchased for $80,000. That's purchased. $80,000, 10,000 was purchased. And then you see the line below that, it says 11,000 yards of material were used in production. See the difference? That was not true the last problem that we did. Okay, so that's unique to this problem. So AQ, where else does AQ go? We're going to ignore the 11,000 for a moment. Let's just calculate the price variance. I helped out Alex quite a bit here because I wrote 2 numbers on the board. What's AQ? 10,000, exactly. Dr. Fessler, you have it written on the board. What are you bothering me with this silly and simple question for, Dr. Fessler? What is SC here? Tyson. Good question, he says. Would it be an easier question to answer? This is 10,000 what? Is it ounces? Yards. That's a useful piece of information for us. Okay, so this is yards, because this will help the next person answer the question. This standard cost needs to be cost per yard, okay? Cost per yard. Robina, what is the standard cost per yard for materials? It's on the materials line. How much? It's the $13.50 is actually the standard cost per, what are they making? Boots. It's actually $9 per yard. $9. What's the actual cost? Anybody figured that out already? Tony, have you figured that out already? 8? Ooh, I heard that yawn. All the way in the front row. So, 8, so that means this is 90,000. And so the difference is 10,000. Is it favorable or unfavorable, Matt? Why? Why? It would be favorable, yes, it would. Okay. Okay, so far so good. This is easy. This is exactly what you expected to do. Now, notice what I'm going to do. Notice where I'm going to put X's. I'm going to put an X on the board here, and I'm going to put an X on the board here, down below, across from one another, and I'm putting them there because that's actually where I'm going to write the information for our next set of calculations. Okay? Is down a little lower and across one another, because here, when we do this calculation, we're not going to use the quantity purchased. We're going to use the quantity what? Used. And how much was used? Jennifer, how much was used? 11,000. Okay, so that's actual quantity down here. 11,000. Standard cost, what's the standard cost going to be, Brandon? It's going to be the same as it was above. $9? $9. $9. Now we just need standard quantity. Mr. McKee, what's our magical phrase for calculating standard quantity? You don't have it memorized yet?
No, standard allowed for actual output.
Standard allowed for actual output. We need actual output in units, and we need standard allowed in terms of yards of material per pair of boots. Matt, you know either of those two numbers? Ashton, either of those numbers? How many units, how many pairs of boots were produced? 7,000. Matt, do you see that? That's actual number of units produced. Now, how much cloth, how much leather per boot, per pair of boots? And you see that on the materials line. So the standard material and labor costs for each pair of boots are as follows. Materials, how many yards per boot? Brandon? 1.5. Right there in front of us. And so I need this math. It's 99,000. I need this number, this calculation. Anthony, you got it? Anybody? Katie?
It's 10,500.
Yeah, that's a little too small. How much? 94,500. That looks a little better. So that means.
Well, I was doing, sorry, I thought you wanted the answer for standard quantity. So
Oh, and what is that number?
which was 10,500.
Very good. I'll take that. This is 4,500. Favorable or unfavorable? Joe?
Favorable?
Why? What is it that is smaller?
The quantity?
What are you comparing it to? Remember, we're comparing this to this. Yes, we expected 10,500. We actually used 11,000. So it's unfavorable. And then what's the grand total variance? Armando? How much? 5,600? 4,500. If you could, though. So I asked Armando, that is correct. That would be the correct way to do it if you could. If you could. So I asked you a little bit of a trick question. You cannot calculate this grand total variance. Why? You cannot calculate the grand total variance, and you might make a note to self of this. You cannot calculate the grand total variance when quantity purchased is not equal to the quantity used. So when the quantity purchased and the quantity used are different, you cannot calculate a grand total variance. Okay? When quantity purchased not equal to quantity used, cannot calculate a grand total variance. Okay? Sorry for rushing just a little bit. The good news is we're going to spend next Tuesday practicing and reviewing a little bit, so we'll get to encounter this a little more. If you would please